welcome to another episode of the Wavemakers Podcast when we feature the stories of the people driving the change in the maritime industry. Today's guest is a true maritime catalyst. He's also an entrepreneur, a writer, and a super connector. Please welcome my guest, Captain Mohit Batra.
Thank you for having me. I know we've been planning this for a while. Finally, by coincidence, our schedules have synced. So once again, thank you for having me here.
Yes, we were very adventurous. And I think that also speaks so much about your character that you just
Very
see something.
spontaneous.
Yeah. And in your own words, how would you describe yourself and your journey into shipping?
My journey into shipping is not by coincidence. I come from a family of sailors. So by default, that was one of the natural choices that I had to join shipping. Although my parents were against it, I think too many people in shipping, especially my mom, didn't want me to join. But as I said, it was a default choice for me. So once I landed here, spent my 12 years at sea, did my MBA, came ashore. I think if you ask the industry, probably they will describe me as a networker, a people's person. I think I have the gift to form connections, and I've always felt that it's good to give back to the industry. So I'm always probably first in line if somebody needs my help, and then I think things flow from there. That when I need help, people are around me.
Yes, I can relate to some of that, especially focusing on the people, and I do think that this industry has such a big heart overall. And how would you describe yourself if you were a vessel? Which vessel would you be and why?
That's a tough one. But although my sailing career spanned on tankers, I think I'd probably be a container ship full of different boxes. I think I've got a very complex personality and even more complex mind. And I've got all these boxes in my mind, and they're churning at different speeds, different times, thinking a lot of things. So I probably would describe myself as a container vessel, a very large container vessel.
Which routes would you take?
Oh, um, that's again, I think I would probably be on a Europe-Asia trade. Um, I've lived in Europe, I've lived in Asia, I've lived in China, I've lived in Singapore, I've lived in India, I've lived in the UK. Um, I've always felt when I came ashore that the growth was in Asia and it's time for Asia. So I love Asia, being an Asian person. And I think I'm in love with Asia. So I really would be in an Asian Europe route. I've never fancied the US part of the world, although I like to go there for visits, and I worked for an American company, but I never saw myself settling down on that side. I think cultural differences and being comfortable where you are, knowing the people, knowing the culture, understanding it makes a difference.
Speaking about cultures, now you mentioned that you have experienced quite a bit of them. How do you see the culture of the maritime industry changing, especially in this new age of digital transformation and decarbonization?
Very interesting because I was actually thinking that you're going to ask me this question. Um, I've been part of digitalization, having led companies who were offering digital solutions twice. Um, I think one is that the maritime industry has been way behind in adopting technology, uh, but also the understanding of what the technology is going to achieve. I think I started first in the year 2011 marketing digital solutions. And I had this realization that people didn't understand what digitalization meant. Initially, it was putting everything electronically, transferring everything into electronic format meant digitalization. Um, I think digitalization has more deeper meaning, and there has to be an outcome of what you're trying to achieve before you set out on the journey of digitalization. I found a lot of companies were doing it because the next company was doing it. So it was um, in quote monkey see, monkey do terms. Uh, so people were just trying to compete with each other rather than reach a proper outcome of how their operations could be more efficient with the digitalization. Uh, Technology always has its positives and has its own drawbacks. I think we were talking about that earlier, that the more technology we are embracing, sometimes it comes with its own drawbacks. Um, Having said that, I think the the focus in maritime, again, it's people know, people have started realizing the outcome, but there is still a need to filter, because when we talk about big data, I think people misunderstand big data as let's collect every data, everything can be useful, let's collect heaps and heaps of data. And I think we are headed towards a data overload. The key focus should be on smart data and how to filter it and how to process it for an outcome. Just because there's a lack of understanding, you also see there's so many companies now offering digital solutions, everybody trying to copy each other. There's no differentiation of what they're offering, and there's not a single company offering the complete package of what digitalization should be. There's bits and pieces, so you still need two or three softwares to actually reach where you want to arrive.
Perhaps some of that is also the approach to now implementing AI.
Yes,
Yeah.
again, AI, whether you talk about autonomous vessels and whatnot, um, we are moving at a very fast pace towards that, and without realizing the impact it's having on people. I mean, shipping is a very complex profession or industry in its own, and although the shipping carries 90% of the world trade, we don't realize the people, the seafarers on board, are facing so much pressure because there are new regulations coming out every day, and the workload is increasing, but the number of personnel on board is decreasing. So there's always a lot of pressure, sometimes misguided frustrations that the people have to face. And I used to, in my speaking assignments, I used to always end with a joke that we will start reducing the number of people until we have an autonomous vessel where there's one person and one dog. The person is there to make sure nothing goes wrong, and the dog is there to make sure the person doesn't touch anything.
Oh, wow. And you work very closely with people also through your company, and safety is a big word in the industry, and it is so close to what you do. And especially when we speak about decarbonization, safety has a very strong accent because of the risk of all these different fuels. Do you have any insights on how people who are there on the vessels feel about this and that future for them?
I think safety plays an important role in whatever we do. It's not just restricted to shipping, but it plays a highly important role in shipping because the people working on ships are away from families, friends, they're isolated, and there's always somebody waiting for them. If something happens, um, it's a big disaster. It's a big heartbreak for the people waiting for them back at home. Um, and as I was telling you, shipping is very complex, and the workload on people has become so much because it's not just carrying cargo from one place to another. The port operations, the navigation, then there's safety, there's security, um, risk of being attacked, especially in today's current political environment, different geographies, um, and crew, multicultural crew on board. And then you start getting the new regulations like ballast water and emissions and whatnot. So I think people need to pay special attention to their tasks to be safe. Safety is not just a process, it's a mindset. It's a way of life that whatever you start doing, you make sure you're safe and ensure safety not just of yourself, but for the property and the people around you.
Mhm. And how do the people feel about you handling different fuels?
I think there's still people are divided when it comes to different fuels that are being introduced, whether it's ammonia, whether it's methanol, whether it's gas, um, or the hybrid model of batteries versus traditional fuel. There's still a lot of experimentation going on in the industry, and it would be unfair of me to put my view down right now because, as I said, I keep hearing different people, different views. Probably not made up my mind, but I think we are heading towards the right direction where we're trying to protect the environment. Um, there's a lot of pressure on companies and on the people on board or even the people ashore. Uh, we just have to wait and watch.
Hmm. Then we will. Taking it to a bit lighter course, what is about shipping that you love the most?
I think it's the people. I've been ashore longer than my sailing career. I spent 12 years at sea and I came ashore in 2014, so it's been now 20 years. Sorry, 2004. So it's been 20 years ashore. Um, when I was sailing, I always felt that I was isolated, with the same 25, 30 people on board. When I came ashore, all my friends were busy because they were working. I was completely free. So I used to just take off backpacking on my own, spend time in isolation. But I used to enjoy meeting people. That's why I love to travel. When I came ashore, luckily I've been blessed that I had jobs which were more on the sales, marketing, meeting people, traveling. Um, Although I thought once I come ashore I'll have my feet grounded, I've always had jobs which kept me traveling. So there were even times when I was not home for 2, 3 weeks in a month. That's how much travel it was. The only difference was I was not traveling by sea; I was traveling by air.
And then somehow the world became the home again.
Exactly. So I think COVID, in some sense, it was a blessing, if I want to say, that it gave me time to finally ground myself. There was no travel for 2 years, 3 years. And now that I've got back to traveling and everything, um, I realize I still love traveling, uh, but I hate the time spent on an aircraft. I think that's completely waste because the more focused you get towards work, you start realizing every minute counts towards productivity. And I see people on their laptops on a plane and still working away. I could never do that. I cannot focus when I'm on a plane, so I either watch a movie or I'll try and get some sleep.
I too sleep or I just observe the sky if I can.
Uh-huh.
And I always think how if we just knew this life above the sky, we would never think that there's so much happening below it. And once I know we were flying from Copenhagen and the sky was so packed with clouds and below was so dark and gloomy. And then above it looked like snow covering everything. And that gives a very good perspective of life, I think. And how.
Absolutely. And in today's busy schedules, you need some time just for yourself, either you're with your family, or you're with friends, or you're working. So I find it, the time on plane, although wasteful, it gives me some me time where I can just have some time alone with my thoughts. And as you said, I do stare down the window at times as well. And I often click videos of, the flying through the clouds or when we are near the ground. It's a different perspective when you see it from top, especially when I land into Singapore every time. The sea of vessels and anchorage, it's for me, that's a beautiful sight. I get to see all these vessels, different kind of vessels, and realize how busy a port Singapore is. Um, at the same time, recently, if you see my recent LinkedIn posts, I think I've also started realizing that we are moving away from nature by being stuck on our phones, on our computers. And I posted 2, 3 photographs of sunsets that I recently experienced. And it was so calming, it was so beautiful that I had to share it even with my professional network. I don't usually post photographs on LinkedIn that are not related to work, but I thought it was time that people also realize to be more appreciative towards life, towards nature, towards taking time off.
Just a short reminder
Yeah.
on the feed that it's okay to just stop. And you also shared a video of your daughter
Yes.
paddling, which I was very happy to see that when it came about. And you said that you were also proud that she's developing the love for waters in her own way and her own experience. And do you think that she too would dip her feet into shipping as well?
Um, Look, I've always believed that women are very powerful force as such. That's what I've been brought up to understand through my childhood and my marriage to a very strong woman and having two daughters. So I actually worship the female strength. I think females are a form of strength. Even in Indian culture, we believe woman is Shakti. Shakti means strength. I was very happy. I mean, I took my daughter as a teen, my elder daughter is a teenager now. She's going to be 17 very soon. And as a typical teenager, she stopped spending much time with us. She's more onto her own. She's a very dedicated, focused girl into her studies, into her friends. We barely see her out of her room. Maybe we have to switch off the Wi-Fi sometimes when we want to talk to her. But jokes aside, she agreed to come to the beach one of the recent weekends that we went to the beach, and I bought a paddle board, and it was something that we wanted to try. So we bought a paddle board, and my friends came with their paddle board, and she took off on one of the paddle boards without any training, without any coaching, and she picked it up very naturally. And after a while, my wife was like, "Where is she?" We couldn't see her because she had gone out quite far into the sea. So I took the paddleboard and I went. And as soon as I saw her, she was lying down, relaxed in her own element, out at sea. And I switched on the video and then I shouted her name. She got up. It was very dramatic. That's why I had to impose the music on that video because I didn't want people to hear my voice. But she picked it up like a natural, it made me feel very proud. And that's why my post read, a captain's daughter. Seeing her there, I felt she was in a very natural habitat. But to say whether she will dip her toes in shipping or not, I think I will leave it that to her personal choice. I've always encouraged her to do what she wants. And right now, her focus is towards becoming, it's too early, but her aim, and that's what I find very attractive about the next generation, is they're very focused. They know what they want. She wants to be a criminal forensic psychologist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. Now I wish I talked to her as well.
Maybe a next podcast. But
Maybe start a different podcast.
but honestly, when I started my career, there was no focus. And I see people today, even in shipping, whether they're into operations, whether they're into chartering, whether they're into any other part of aspect of shipping, they're very focused. I think an advantage that I got by not being focused is I got to see the industry from different sides. I worked for a consultancy company. I worked for a class society. I worked for an engine manufacturer. I worked for digitalization shipping. I worked on the ship supply side. So I've seen the industry from various different angles. And I think that's given me a very broad perspective. And as soon as I came ashore and became a people's person, I also understood the importance of having a strategy in life or in business. So with that, having different views, I think, opens up your mind to different strategies rather than being very narrow-minded. It opens up, and sometimes you start thinking out of the box. You start looking at results or solutions that you would not ordinarily look at if you were just thinking in a one-way street, if I may say so.
I can very much relate to that. That was my journey. Although I thought I had some sort of a plan, I had big pictures in my life of what I would like to achieve. And somehow the plan to get there that I took never really worked out. immediately like that. But I was open and receptive and curious. But then now when I reflect, I actually managed to reach all these milestones. Just my path was a bit different, and somehow people were recognizing that I'm able to perhaps identify things from a very different industry, implement it. So I can very much relate to what you were saying.
I do agree, and I think we met by chance as well,
Yes.
and I know part of your journey as well. Uh, but there's a saying like, if you want something in life, the whole circumstances or the whole environment will form um, the way or guide you to the way where you're supposed to reach your destination. Um, Having said that, I'm not a very religious person, but I do believe in God. I also am a very positive, optimist person. So when things don't go my way, or when I start feeling frustrated with something, I remember what somebody once told me, and they told me that if things happen to your liking, then good. But if things don't happen to your liking, then it's better because somebody's got a better plan for you.
Yes. There's a reason why it doesn't happen, and
Exactly.
it's showing you the other direction if you're
Yeah.
stubborn. Yes. And knowing that today perhaps we have lesser time than we would normally,
Mm-hmm.
what would be your advice to people like your daughter or younger generations that are entering the industry? How should they navigate it, and what would be their mindset for it?
I think the most important thing for people to remember is they need to understand what they want to do. As I said, the next generation, I have no doubt they're more focused than my generation. So they do know what they want. I'm going to be boring like everybody else and say hard work, which of course is very necessary. Um, I also started believing that hard work combined with luck, being at the right place at the right time, makes a lot of difference. And something that my father always told me, that in life, it's not always necessary to do what you like. You must like what you do. So if you get into something, you better try to be the best at what you're doing. Don't be afraid of failures. I think failures are the ladder to success. So if you are afraid of falling down, you'll never get there. Don't be afraid of falling down. Just get up, dust yourself off. That's what I can tell my daughters as well. Keep carrying on. Um, Being persistent in what you're doing, or being persistent to reach your destination, um, will get you there. So don't give up.
Well, thank you for the conversation.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to meet you. I don't know you for very long, but it just feels I know you for quite some time now. We've been chatting, we've met up a couple of times, and it's always nice to see you and Max.
Thank you very
And I
much.
wish you good luck with whatever you're trying to do.
Thank you so much.